We actually have
throw that far.
to.
We have an audience.
That's it. I'll wait till later.
Amy?
Mark, are you ready to start?
Give me
Or
30 seconds, please. Let's get my agenda up.
Okay. So, Mary?
Okay, I'm set, Nancy, thank you.
All right, I'm going to start the recording then.
Okay, please do. And we don't have Jamie. so-
Okay.
Okay, very good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Borough Council meeting of April 12th, 2022. I'd like to welcome you all. I'd also like to say thank you to those of you in person here, as well as those who may be connected in digitally for attending our meetings. The council always appreciates participation of our residents. Nancy, so I'm calling the meeting to order. Nancy, would you kindly read the sunshine notice?
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the 2022 meeting dates was published in the Courier News and Burnersville News on December 9th, 2021, and posted at the Municipal Complex and the Borough Library. Action may be taken.
Before we all stand up, a few months, not very long ago, I attended a zoning board meeting in another town in support of a historic application that was going on to preserve a property that had some meaning to a lot of people. And I was very dismayed to find that at that meeting, they did not say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I was told that they don't even say it at the council meeting in that town. It's a rather large town. Peapack has a tremendously proud tradition of saying the Pledge of Allegiance, not only at this meeting, but any meeting open to the public. So I would ask that you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Nancy, a roll call, please.
Councilman Caminetti.
Here.
Council President Corleano.
Here.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Here.
Councilman Lemma.
Here.
Councilman Sweeney.
Here.
Thank you, Nancy. I'd like to just, for the record, state that Mayor Skinner could not be with us tonight. He had a family emergency. So I am standing in for him to run the meeting. Okay?
Mark, they can't hear us virtually, so.
Okay, it's going.
It's been fixed.
Okay, very good. So I'm now going to open the meeting up to public comment, non-agenda items only. So these are items that are not on our agenda. Time limit of 5 minutes per person, and if you'd like to speak, you may come up to the microphone. We'd like to give your name and address. So anyone for public comments? Seeing no one?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead.
How you doing? My name is Jeff Dockery. I'm a resident in town. Over here.
Yep.
How you doing? I received a letter in the mail the other day, and regarding the police force.
Okay, Mr. Doherty, may I interrupt you? That's on the agenda, so
Oh.
I need to respectfully,
Stand
no,
down.
so wait, hang out, you can hang out. I respectfully ask that you hold your comments till the end of the meeting when we discuss agenda items.
Thank you.
Unless you have non-agenda items, you want to make comments.
No, I didn't know it was on the agenda. I didn't have it in front of me, so I'm sorry.
Okay, there's copies in the
Just
back.
don't do it again.
You're welcome, there's copies in the back if you'd like one. Okay, anyone else for public comment, non-agenda?
Yep, this is Rick Polito and Stacy Fresco. We live on 17 Holland.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for having us. We met with you guys back in October regarding the sidewalk project. That was basically going to be installed in front of our house. There's been a lot more chatter about it. We don't want to rehash everything that we spoke about in that meeting. I assume you guys have minutes and stuff. I recorded them. You were told that having a face-to-face meeting would be possible and probably advisable because we can't go through all of the issues that we have with putting a sidewalk in front of our house in 5 minutes. And we just wanted to show up to say that if there are plans to make it move forward, we would at least like to have a meeting with the stakeholders, so to speak, to go over our options. We are vehemently opposed to having a sidewalk put in front of our house because I don't know if you know 17 Holland, we're very, very close to the sidewalk as it is, on curb. And we would basically be, our house, our, you know, front of our house would basically be, you know, right on the sidewalk. And I'm not gonna say that we were told specifically that it wasn't gonna happen, but we definitely left that meeting thinking that it was not going to happen. We were talking about remodeling the house, and that we wouldn't wanna remodel it if that was going to happen, because we would probably look to sell. And we were reassured, you know, we know it's still possible, but we were definitely reassured that it probably was not going to happen, so. We just wanted to show up and again, voice our, opposition to having it, and if there are, you know, we know that we have no legal grounds to not have it, but we'd at least like to discuss some options if it is gonna go forward.
Mr. Polito, I'm gonna hand you over to our roads chairman, GP Caminiti, to respond to you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Politi. Thanks for dialing in. Sidewalks, of course, have been getting some more buzz. There's been some next door chatter and the like. You're absolutely right. However, there are some very practical considerations surrounding whether to go forward or not. I think you can be assured that it's not going to happen overnight. If for no other reason than because the funds are not in place to be able to execute a project like that. So we're happy to have discussions and obviously to include you in any stakeholder discussions on that. So I look forward to that. You have my borough email address. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time, or if you have specific questions, and I'll address them by email. But as it stands right now, we do not have a date certain for building, nor do we have a date certain for beginning the project, because it has been under discussion for a number of years, and as you can imagine, the costs have changed. Soft costs and costs for materials and the like, so we're still looking for funding opportunities so that at least we can make the decision about how to go forward and in what form without having the finances dictate to us when we might be able to do it. Right now, we're not at that point. The money is not there. So we have budgeted for it consistently, predictably, responsibly over the last few years, but we don't have all the money together yet.
GP, we should add, this year's budget, I think we added $40,000 to the kitty to move toward the total
Right.
project cost.
But just the long and the short of it, we don't have enough money, therefore,
Correct.
we're not gonna enter a design phase on it during this calendar year.
No. Likely not during this budget year unless we get a windfall somehow. So far, no residents, well-heeled residents have come forward and said, I've got my checkbook, what's it going to cost? So we need to do this in a way that's fiscally responsible for all of the residents. Councilman Lemma was right to point out that we added $40,000 in the budget this year to the fund for the sidewalk project, but if I recall correctly, the project was somewhere around $243,000 going back a number of years. So you can imagine where that number might be now. I would say closer to 300 is realistic. But that's just educated guesswork. So that having been said, please feel free to reach out to me with questions, or if you want to have a discussion, I'm happy to have that with you.
Okay, I mean, really, we just want, as you can imagine, we just want to know either it's gonna happen or it's not gonna happen, and I know that's tough, not something that's probably very quantifiable right now, and that's understandable. It's just a real point of stress in our household whenever that's happening.
I'm sorry for that, and obviously we don't want to do anything to contribute to stress. We want to help mitigate stress wherever possible. But that having been said, we do have public safety concerns about pedestrian activity in that roadway. Holland Avenue, you know better than anyone, is very well frequented, and we also have a pedestrian situation there that needs to be addressed. So we try to operate on the basis of being fair to all of our residents. So these things are taken into consideration, but we don't have a date certain or a firm plan yet.
Okay, and really, we definitely, I mean, we got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old and an 11-year-old. We definitely understand how just crossing to get to the other side is sometimes an adventure. And we're not opposed to some kind of measure, we don't want a sidewalk right in front of our house. That's all. And like I said, if we had a face-to-face meeting, I think we could probably put our heads together. If somebody said, yes, it's definitely gonna happen, we would at least wanna just put our 2 cents in, some alternative options.
GP, do you want to mention?
Mr. Polito, you should also be aware that this is Mark speaking. that
Yeah, I
the
was
coun-
just gonna go there. We have a crosswalk that's already been planned and approved by the county, that's a little bit downstream from you towards the train station. So that's gonna be going in, hopefully make things a little bit easier for you and your young children to cross the roadway. But that having been said, that's a separate project. That's not what has been discussed in the past surrounding sidewalks on Holland.
All right. Thank you for speaking, Mr. and Mrs. Polito.
Thank you very much.
Okay, last call for non-agenda item comments. Seeing none or hearing none, I'm going to move on to old business. We have nothing on the agenda for old business. Does any council member have any old business item they'd like to add? Seeing none, let's move on to new business. I have a statement to be read tonight that I'm going to read on behalf of the borough. This is an open letter from the Borough Council to the residents of Peapack and Gladstone in response to the recent PBA letter sent to borough residents. Recently, many residents received a letter in the mail from the PBA Local 139, advocating its position to the public with respect to the upcoming arbitration with the borough. The governing body of the Borough of Peapack and Gladstone felt it important to respond with this open letter to address some of the incorrect, misleading, and negative statements contained therein. Rather than respond on a point-by-point basis, however, we as the governing body have instead chosen in this brief response to address several general issues of significance to the public. Every 4 years, the borough and PBA enter contract negotiations to update contract terms for PG police officers. Contract terms of the PBA agreement include salary and other benefits. Since early 2021, the borough has been directly negotiating the terms of the upcoming contract with the PBA. The PBA has continued to reject what we perceive to be very reasonable offers by the borough, including increased pay and benefits. When a PBA such as Local 139 rejects such offers, the parties are obliged to enter into an arbitration process in order to resolve the issues. This is a step the borough would have liked to avoid. However, since the numerous borough officers were rejected by the PBA, the borough was left with no option but to pursue arbitration to be conducted by a neutral arbitrator. Both the borough and the PBA shall each be represented by an attorney throughout the arbitration process. Many municipalities, including neighboring municipalities to Peapack and Gladstone, have undergone the exact same type of arbitration to resolve agreements with their local police unions. The situation presented in Peapack and Gladstone is not unique and it is not new. Also, contrary to the assertions of PBA, the officers are not working without a contract, as our prior contract continues in full force and effect until a new one is reached. The PBA letter also contained several negative statements about the overall operations of the borough. Those statements, however, are simply not correct. We greatly appreciate the work of all borough employees, including the police officers, and are very pleased with the current state of borough administration. Like anywhere, there have been several well-deserved retirements, individual choices to pursue other employment or life choices, and unfortunately, some situations the departure not in good standing. Regrettably, regrettably, the facts presented on this topic were somewhat skewed in this regard. For example, the department is only at seven full-time members at this point because one officer resigned for less than favorable reasons having nothing to do with the borough the day before the PBA wrote its letter to the public. This important fact was omitted by the PBA when citing statistics in its letter. The letter also neglected to mention that the borough has already begun steps towards replacing that officer. In the meantime, there have been no notable rise in crimes, calls, or population in the borough over the last several years, despite what may have been claimed in the letter. Your elected officials on the Borough Council manage a taxpayer budget that includes the compensation and benefits of all staff, including police officers, as well as a great many other expenses related to operating a municipal government. The governing body is always mindful of the fact that salary issues directly affects the tax dollars which you as residents are required to expend. The governing body works diligently to keep your taxes as low as possible while still striving to pay borough employees a fair and competitive salary and benefits. We encourage residents to ask questions and come to council meetings to understand all of the facts, rather than to be misled by incorrect, irrelevant, negative statements that are counterproductive to this great municipality. Nancy, will you please see that this letter is posted on not Nextdoor, faux pas there, on the borough website tomorrow and
Yes.
mentioned in a PG Notify? Okay.
Mark, if I could make a suggestion, that we deviate a little bit from our agenda, because I think a lot of people, there might be other people here that want to ask about this, so rather than keep them to the end of the meeting.
I don't think we have a very long meeting. I would do it in, what's the council consensus? Hold to the end or do it now?
Just stay with our format.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's gonna be pretty quick.
All right, I think we'll be pretty quick, John. All right. Miscellaneous discussions and approvals. Council members, nothing on the agenda. Anything additional we have? Okay. Nothing?
No.
Okay. Let's go to a reading and approval of minutes, special budget meeting minutes, March 16th, 2022. May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Nancy, a roll call, please.
Councilman Caminiti?
Yes.
Council President Corigliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to ordinances. An introduction of ordinance 1110-2022, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank. I won't read the statute for the year 2022. May I please have a motion and a second to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, a roll call, please?
Just
Count-
briefly, though, this is pro forma. This is not a statement that we are exceeding the cap bank.
That is correct. This is reserving for the future. Nancy, a roll call, please?
Councilman Caminiti?
Yes.
Council President Corigliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance 1110-2022 is introduced and shall be published in summary in the Burnersville News, and the public hearing for said ordinance shall be held on May 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. or shortly thereafter. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit out of order on these resolutions because I know we have somebody connected in from overseas, from McManaman, our bond attorney, Matt Jessup. So I'm gonna move 93-22, which is a resolution regarding the CPACE program, the Clean Energy Program, up to the top. Tonight we have on the Zoom, the GoToMeeting, we have Matt Jessup, who's our bond attorney from McManaman, Scotland and Bauman, and we also have one of his colleagues here, Joshua Berliner, who's right here. They are going to give the council, and I also have Bob Wojciech, the president and CEO of Nataror Resort Development, sitting in the audience. And I'm going to, between these three gentlemen, I asked them to come in and give the council a brief on this resolution and what this is doing. We had discussed this about almost a year ago, I think,
Yeah, thereabouts.
about this energy program. It is the first in New Jersey if it occurs and when it occurs. But I thought the council deserved a refresh on this before we pass such a resolution. So, Matt Jessup, you're on the line?
I am here, yes.
Very good, and Joshua's here, and Bob Wojciech is here. So amongst the three of you, if you'd come up to the microphone and give a little chat and brief our residents as well as ourselves on this.
Excellent, certainly, and I'm happy to begin and see where we go from here. So, good evening, everyone. First, thank you for accommodating me from afar. I appreciate it. My name is Matt Jessup. I'm Adam Bauman. We have had the opportunity to be your bond counsel for many years, which we greatly appreciate. We certainly don't see you very often, so we want to take this opportunity to make sure that with me, or really with you all tonight, is my colleague, Josh Berliner, as well from our firm. Council members, as you may know, the Nataror estate of 90 acres is undergoing significant improvements. Bob Wojciech at Nataror Resorts are undertaking a $70 million project. A luxury hotel, 66 rooms and 5 farmhouse units, a spa, and some residential for sale units as well. In that $70 million project, there are approximately $18.4 million of what we call clean service and refrigeration equipment, and other similar energy efficiency improvements. These improvements qualify for what is known as PACE financing, or Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing. And here's, in a nutshell, how that works. The developer takes out a loan from a private lender and uses the loan proceeds to construct those clean energy improvements. The developer requests that the borough impose a special assessment on the developer's property in an amount equal to the annual loan repayments. This is not unlike the borough assessing a property for installation of sidewalks or a new water or sewer main, assessments that local governments throughout make fairly routinely. The developer pays their tax bill quarterly to the borough, inclusive of the special assessment, which is on top of conventional taxes. The borough keeps the conventional taxes and distributes them accordingly, and remits the special assessment payment to the lender to repay the loan. If the developer fails to pay the assessment, it triggers a tax lien, not unlike if the developer had failed to pay conventional taxes. Importantly, the developer's land and improvements are the only thing that secure the loan. The borough is not in any way an obligor on the loan. The loan is 100% non-recourse to the borough and its taxpayers. The borough's role in PACE financing is limited to, first, imposing the assessment in an amount that will be fixed and known at the loan closing. Second, collecting that assessment on a quarterly basis, again, not unlike collecting ordinary taxes and due on the same days. And third, in the event of default, enforcing the lien at the instruction of the lender. In this particular case, the proposed loan is not to exceed $21 million and will be issued for 30 years. Annual loan repayments and assessments are projected to be approximately $275,000 a quarter for the first 10 years and $415,000 per quarter for the next 20 years. Again, once the loan closes, we'll know to the penny what the assessment amount is each quarter for the next 30 years. Prior to the borough being able to accommodate Natawar Resorts with their request for this PACE financing, the borough, under the PACE law, New Jersey PACE law, is required to apply to the Division of Local Government Services for approval to undertake the PACE assessment. The resolution before you tonight authorizes the submission of an application to the Director of the Division of Local Government Services. We've also included, with the clerk's office, a nearly complete form of application, save for just the resolution number and the date of adoption of the resolution that you're considering tonight. So if you choose to move forward with the resolution tonight and vote in favor, we plan to file that application as soon as tomorrow with the Director for her approval for this private PACE loan. Once the Director grants her approval, the next and last legislative item to be considered by the Borough Council is adoption of the ordinance that authorizes the assessment on the Natawar property and authorizes a special assessment agreement between the borough and Natawar Resorts, which really just memorializes Natawar's assessment and its obligation to repay that assessment on a quarterly basis. From there, once that's done, the developer will lock down the terms of its loan, which will be evidenced by bonds issued by the Somerset County Improvement Authority to the private lender that Natawar secures on its own. Those bonds are non-recourse to the borough and Somerset County and are secured solely by the special assessment payments made by the developer to the borough. Lastly, all of the borough's costs in connection with the transaction will be paid by Natawar either at or prior to bond closing. The borough is entitled to charge an administrative fee for processing the assessment payments, which we can discuss further as we get closer to a loan closing.
No, let's make mention of it.
So that's PACE in a nutshell, and this particular project. If you have questions about the resolution before you tonight, the ordinance that you may be asked to consider once the Director you may have.
Okay, so let's start with questions from the Borough Council first. Do you have any questions for Matt or Joshua?
I appreciate the refresh, but I don't have any.
Okay, with the consent of the council, I'm gonna open this up to public comment. If any of the public has any questions on this, since we have the attorneys on the line. Do we have to do that by a motion?
No.
Okay. So if any member of the
You're in
public.
charge. It's your call.
If any
You're on the
member,
meeting.
if any member of the public wishes to ask a question of the attorneys on this, you're welcome to do so now. Either online or not. So I'd ask you to come up to the microphone, name and address, please, and state your question to the attorney.
Hi, good evening, Mike Coppice, 25 Willow. Not gonna talk about speeding tonight, I promise. My only question is that special assessment, would that only be for the new residences and people involved at the Natterar property? It wouldn't affect everybody throughout town, correct?
No,
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
It's just on that, what,
Just on the
390
20 whatever
acres,
residences that'll be up there and the hotel rooms and all?
the 90 acres, yeah.
Think of it as an additional tax that the Natterar Resort Hotel would
Right.
have to pay.
So if I buy there, which I won't be able to afford, but if I buy up there, I would be subject to it, but staying on Willow Avenue, I will not.
No, it doesn't affect the residences up there. This is solely for the hotel.
Okay, so the residents up there wouldn't pay that either?
No, they don't pay it
So-
either.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public question section.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
Josh, maybe you can help me with the numbers on this, because we like to make data-driven decisions. You'd indicated that the loan is going to be for a 30-year term. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is Matt Jessup from McMahon. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so presumably, the members of the governing body who are here tonight won't be with us in 30 years. I know I won't be. Therefore, we're being asked to make a commitment going forward on behalf of future governing bodies and future residents to be able to manage this. You'd mentioned the administrative costs and the work involved. How is that being quantified?
So that's a conversation that we can have with the borough and primarily with your tax assessor. Your tax assessor is likely familiar with special assessments, given that municipalities, perhaps not the borough, but municipalities generally do impose special assessments, not unlike this one, on a regular basis. Again, you put a new road into a section of town, you put a new water or sewer main, sidewalks, all of those things are often, not always, but are often paid for by the municipality by assessing the properties who benefit from that improvement. It is a separate line item on the existing tax bill, and it is set up within the existing tax software system that the borough tax assessor likely uses, whether that's Edmunds or one of the other ones. So in this case, the nice thing is the full 30-year assessment, the exact dollar amount, is known from once we close the loan. So that amount needs to be inputted into the computer system that the assessor uses, which will then put the quarterly payment onto the existing tax bill under the assessment section, as opposed to the general taxation section, and will be sent out with the same tax bill that the property owner normally gets. Whatever the borough feels the additional administrative cost is to add that schedule to the tax system and to then generate the same tax bill that is generated every quarter naturally already, that's a fee amount that we should discuss, again, amongst us and the borough prior to the loan closing so that we can build in that cost to the property.
Okay, so just to be clear on the sequencing, Josh, those discussions take place after the resolution has been passed and presumably the ordinance and the third-party lender has come to the table with the developers, and then we start looking at that number?
NDLGS approves it.
So as of right now, there is a placeholder fee amount for this and other costs that are presumed but have not been dialed down to an exact number. So there's already a placeholder in the loan amount, the $21 million loan amount and the repayment numbers that I gave you earlier, that are already built in, if you will. Once we receive the director's approval, after which we can't get until we adopt the resolution tonight and submit the application to the director, approval and know that we are legally able to move forward,
Mhm.
that is the right moment to have a conversation with the tax assessor and with the borough to understand what the borough feels its additive costs will be on an annual basis to apply, add the assessment amount to the existing tax bill and to administer the repayment of that loan. So it's not tonight, but it's not when we close the loan either. It's in between. It's after director approval, but before the additional legislative proceeding to move forward.
Understood.
And GP, I'm somewhat familiar with Edmunds. I think it's a de minimis one-time data entry that will take a short amount of the assessor's time, so I don't think we're looking at anything material.
No. No one's looking for stumbling blocks here. We just want to make sure that we're not making a commitment on behalf of future generations of governing bodies and residents and the like. And we all know unforeseen things can happen. Lenders change hands, assets are
It's a fair
bought.
question. It could be the gift that keeps on giving.
Assets get bought and sold. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and of course, we want to support our local businesses. So, that having been said, okay, then that's what I was hoping for confirmation on, Josh. So thank you for the
Thanks, Shane.
confirmation.
Matt, John Sweeney here. I have a question. It's going to be on the same tax bill. If the payment was short, how does that get allocated? Do we get paid? Does the borough get paid its tax first, and then the balance gets applied to the assessment payment, or is it pro rata?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's very clear under the statute that a failure to pay future taxes trumps the special assessment. So if we book the loan and then you go to the next quarter and they fail to pay real estate taxes in full, the real estate taxes do trump in priority the special assessment.
Perfect.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Good
I
question.
went to law school.
So I have a question.
Didn't go to class.
Come on up, Chief.
Sir, I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this question. Maybe Mr. Wodowitz would answer. Public safety-wise, I was Steve Ferrani. I'm the chief of police here. How many people on any given day can we expect on the property between residents and hotel?
Yeah, this is Matt. If Bob's there, I think that's probably.
Yeah, just a rough idea. I'm not looking for exact.
I think
I know, it's on the
the amount
agenda.
of people that are out there is gonna be very close to the amount when the hotel is open.
Okay. So, any rough idea what we're looking at?
Highest or average or?
Just an
If
average.
the restaurant was full, the hotel was full, and the condos
Yeah, full night
occupied.
hotel.
The restaurant, I think, is 135 seats. And the banquet hall is 225 people.
Okay. And the residences that are being built now,
24 homes.
24 homes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to close the questioning period. I'm going to offer Mr. Wojciech a moment if he wishes to say something about this, and otherwise we'll move on. Go ahead.
I think Matt, thank you, Mark. I think Matt did a great job in explaining the PACE program, and, I do think it's helpful for us to do this, and I'm excited, just like I think the town is, to be the first in the state to adopt the PACE program. So I'm super excited about that, and I appreciate the support from the town.
You're welcome. Okay, that having been said, do I have a first and a second for this resolution? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. There is one, should we do a first and a second, then amend it, or discuss it first?
No, amend it and then a first and second.
Okay. John Bruder reminded me of something, and that is, we had agreed to put a short statement in this resolution regarding setting up of escrow to cover the borough's costs related to executing this, which Mr. Wojciech fully agreed to. So I'm going to ask John to read a short sentence to add on to the bottom of this resolution and modify it.
It would go in the preamble and the whereas clauses.
Okay?
And it's whereas an escrow account shall be created, to be funded by Natterar Resort Development LLC and Natterar Residential Development LLC to compensate the borough in full for all borough's professionals' fees incurred in the creation and implementation of the ordinance and PACE program, with an initial amount to be agreed upon by the parties.
Okay. Will you provide that wording to Nancy and Karen,
Yeah.
please? Okay. Okay, so now we go for a first and a second.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, comments from council?
No, it's exciting. It's an exciting tool. So reduces, I think, the cost of lending too, which is, of course, stimulating businesses. So it's good. It's a good program.
Nancy, a roll call, please?
Councilman Caminiti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, let's moving on. I'm going to ask my fellow council members, will you please take a look at resolutions 84-22 through 92-22 and see if there's any that you wish for me to pull from a consent agenda resolution.
8422, I think that should
Yeah,
stand
I
alone.
think it should.
Okay, I agree with that, okay?
I'd also like 9222
Yeah.
standalone.
You want to let Matt know he can go?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just give me a second. Matt, you're free to go, and Joshua, you're free to go. Thank you for being here. I didn't release
Bob, you
you.
can stop sweating now, don't
Yeah.
pull it off the clock.
And Bob, you have to stay. Likewise, thanks, Matt, sorry about that.
Thanks, Matt.
Mark, I was saying also 9222 could stand alone.
90, okay, that's fine. Any others? Okay. Any others? No? Okay, let's start with 8422. Resolution for the 2022 budget introduction. A motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mark, I think you should actually
Yeah,
move it.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll move it, because I'm
Go
chairman
ahead.
of finance. Yes, I move. You mind if I move it, Amy?
No?
I'll move that one, Nancy.
it.
Okay.
You can second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Good second.
Councilman
I could,
Caminiti?
but
Yes.
but he did the
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Sorry.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Jump
Okay,
in.
very good. That passes. Let's consent agenda for 8522, 8622, 8722, 8822, 8922, 9022, and 9122. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilman Caminiti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lemma?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, that passes. I should have mentioned after, I'm sorry, after 8422, the budget introduction, the UFC form of the budget is available for inspection in the clerk's office. Okay, moving on to.
Can I just very briefly welcome Jonathan Apgar to the fire department as our newest member? I don't know, is Jonathan Apgar with us tonight?
It's a very familiar sounding name.
No, he's not. He's our new DPW worker also,
Right,
Yeah.
laborer, so.
right. Well, congratulations and
nice to
welcome
have a-
aboard.
Nice to have a new
Always good
member.
to have
Yeah.
fresh blood.
Very good. Let's move on to Resolution 92-22, authorization to pay unused vacation, Kelly, and compensation time to Anthony Damiano. A motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
I
discussion?
have a couple of questions about this, about the calculations and the amounts shown, and also about the legal status of this. So it's a question for John Bruder. John, I know that we had taken sick time out of the equation off the table due to the standing of the retirement status. Does that status also affect any of the other categories that are shown in the resolution?
No, I don't believe it does.
There was a specific clause in the CBA
Correct.
regarding sick time that didn't apply to the other times that we're talking about.
That's correct.
Okay, we have confirmation on that?
Yeah,
Because
that is correct. There is,
Yep.
there is the specific clause that pertains only to sick time. The balance does not.
Mhm.
The comp time and Kelly time is actually already earned.
Earned.
That's why it's in a bank.
That's correct.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay,
under
because
federal, under wage
I had
law, I don't think we
spoken
could.
to a labor attorney about this who took the opposite position, and that's enough to cause a little doubt to surface. And obviously, we need to be cautious with things like this, so I just wanted confirmation on that.
Yeah, no, well,
Is this
I was-
time sensitive?
is it time sensitive? I don't know that it
I-
necessarily is, but.
Don't think that it's time sensitive.
Well, then I would suggest that we get confirmation from our labor attorney, either one way or another, just to have belts and suspenders on this.
All right, I'll give Art a call tomorrow.
That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
May I suggest you make a motion to table it?
Yes. I'll make a motion to table it, subject to confirmation by our labor attorney.
Do we need to second it?
Yeah.
Second.
All right, discussion on that?
From what I understand about labor law and with counsel and Mr. Bruder, these are all earned times, and I don't think there should be, I can't think of another situation in my experience where this wouldn't be payable. So I would be of the mindset to pay it now. The delay would be de minimis, I agree, but
I
Can we,
think-
I may make an alternative suggestion to it. Why don't we modify the resolution, subject to confirmation from our labor attorney, so that way the delay would be de minimis. I mean, 'cause I'm of the same mind as you, Don, on that issue.
so we would authorize it tonight with our
With the-
labor
with-
attorney.
with the con-
Subject to
with the
approval.
caveat.
Tomorrow, giving the thumbs up, and that being the case, there would be no delay in getting the check out to him.
That would be my approach.
I'd be okay with that.
I actually agree with Don, Don in his interpretation of this, because that was my interpretation of this as well, based on my experience in government and having made payments in the past to certain employees regarding certain bank time, and I do believe that these are earned and due. So I think John Sweeney's solution to modify the resolution with subject to approval by the labor attorney is appropriate.
I think, GP, some of the research you did was around the standing, the exit position of the employee and, you know, in good standing or not. So does that have any influence?
No, not other than on sick time to my.
Because
That's fine. Listen, if-
what
if-
Art's gonna be opining on is the federal wage laws.
Correct.
And, you know, there are statutes which govern the cap banks, the comp banks, you know, the Kelly time. I mean, you can't not pay an employee, you know, wages under any circumstance if they worked.
Well, let's keep it simple then, you know, it's very simple, subject to confirmation, and
I
then
agree.
was discussed, and
Yeah.
we'll go forward.
So it's
I
fine.
don't think
I'm
it should be
not
a
interested in foot job,
difficult
I want
issue.
it to be proper, that's all.
So there should be a motion and a second to pass the resolution as amended with the additional clause of making it subject to approval by Labor Council.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna drop the resolution to table, and I'm gonna ask for a new.
Well, we're replacing it, we're not
Well,
even dropping it right
we'll
now.
modify it.
Now-
Modify
now
it, we'll
there's- now
replace
there's a
it.
motion and a second to adopt the resolution as amended with
modified.
respect to the additional clause.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, first,
Second.
okay, very good. Any comments on that, council? Nancy, a roll call, please.
Councilman Caminiti?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilman Lama?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
And just the one administrative task, you should be able to get the answer tomorrow, I would think, Nancy, and if he gives the thumbs up, I think you can just issue the check and just inform the council that, Labor Council. gave
Yeah,
it.
it'll be in the next payroll.
Okay,
It'll go through payroll, so
Okay,
if Art says that it's okay.
correct.
very good. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Moving on, Resolution 9422, approvals of bills. Does any council member have any item that needs to be pulled for discussion on the bill list?
Just a quick question about the electronic locks, where were those installed, do we know?
They just-
I'm
The
sorry?
The electronic locks that are shown on the bills list, where were they installed, do you know?
They were installed in all of the office doors down in the administration office, and I think there was one done in the police office too that needed to be replaced.
Okay, so they're coded,
They're all coded now to get into all of the rooms.
okay, and who has the codes, you do?
I have all the codes. I
Okay.
did send out an email to the council giving the
Yeah.
code for the mayor and council office.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
that's
you,
it.
Nancy.
You're welcome.
Any other questions with respect to the bill list for us or Nancy? John, anything?
No.
Okay. Motion and second to approve 9422 payment of bills, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Caminani?
Yes.
Council President Corliano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deidre?
Yes.
Councilman Lemon?
Yes.
Councilman Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Next, we go to public comments. Now, these are comments, this is your turn. For a couple of public comments for agenda items only. I'd ask that you please keep it to no more than 3 minutes per person. Again, no debating between residents. Comments are addressed to the mayor and council at the microphone. When you come up to the microphone or you speak, your name and address, please. So just to make this work well, I'm gonna ask first that those who are connected in via GoTo, if anybody has a comment they wish to say, now's your opportunity.
I would also defer to the people in the room first, to give them first opportunity to
I
speak.
was gonna hold the people in the room till last.
No, they made the effort to come here tonight. Let's give them courtesy to
Oh,
go first.
I'm fine with that. Okay. Those on GoTo, you're on hold. Those in the room, all yours. Thank you for waiting.
First of all, thank you for your time, and thank you for your service. Like I said, I know everyone up here is vested in the town. I've been living in the town a short period of time.
Just take a name and address first.
Jeff Dockery,
Okay, very good.
okay, over here at 1 St. Luke's. Been living in town approximately 6 to 8 months, and I've worked in Somerset County for a long time. I'm very familiar with Somerset County. You have a wonderful town here, but it doesn't always, though it's wonderful now, doesn't mean it will stay that way. And with everything with the Natterar and the sidewalk, everything boils down to a lot of times public safety. It is the foundation of your environment and your community. That letter coming to my door was a little bit of alarming. I was like, wow, it sounds like the police department is at odds with their town. And that's never a good thing. It's never good for either side. I know there was a comment about arbitration being ordinary. It's not ordinary. The process that you're going through is ordinary. It's well laid out, but it's usually the last resort. So basically, as a resident, I'm concerned that we have two sides at odds that really shouldn't be at odds. And a lot of times the solution is there. I mean, you failed to really, you made like a global comment on some of the things that they said in there and said that there's untruths in there. Well, I don't know that. No one knows that unless you actually sit down and go through the letter. And it really, you don't owe that to me as a town resident. You probably owe it to each other in this disagreement. So I have heard, and like I said, I'm law enforcement in this county too as well, like I said. I am very familiar with how things have changed over time. And I can assure you, if your population goes up, you're gonna have more problems. And I can assure you that over the course of my 22 years here in Somerset County, things are getting worse. So I would just caution both sides to take that route and to go to arbitration when you can actually settle this on your own. And also, no one wins in arbitration. It costs money on both sides and it's money wasted. So as a town resident and knowing a little bit about the scenario, I would hope that everyone would keep their cooler head, sit down at the table, really hammer out the issues that are there. There was a verbiage of being competitive, obviously we're talking about salaries here, what have you, and also staffing. If a department had a certain amount of officers in 2009, they shouldn't have less now, especially with a spike in crime, and a spike in population. It's common sense that it should stay that way, or if not more. It's going to require more. Public safety is not cheap. It will never be cheap. But yes, it is the foundation of things, so it will be money well spent. If they're not doing their job with what they have, then that's your job to call them out on that. But if they're not given the tools that they need, that is concerning, and every resident here should be concerned with that. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments? Okay. Anyone else from present here who wishes to speak? Comments regarding the agenda? I see Chief Ferranti walking up, so Chief, it's yours.
Thanks again. I appreciate you guys hearing me. I'll be very brief. I'm not here to discuss the letter. I was not part of the letter. I am a member of the PBA currently. However, I am a member only in certain means. I don't go to meetings. I allow the guys to have their space there because if they have complaints about the administration, that's me. I don't feel like sitting in a room. Let them have their time to do so. With that said, there are concerns that I have and I've had prior to this. And I appreciate Mr. Dockery for bringing these items up. And that item is staffing. When I got hired here in '99, shortly after, we had 11 police officers in this town, full and part-time. Currently have 8. To over 30% decrease in staffing. As he stated, crime is going up. Severity of crimes are going up. We have a population increase. We're talking a possibility of 300 plus people on a given time in Natterar. I have one guy working, 14 hours, 16 hours. I know we've been given the okay to replace an officer that just resigned. And might I state this, resigned in good standing. What I need is a 9th officer, full-time, and an additional part-time officer. I sent an email to everyone this morning requesting time at a council meeting, I believe 2 weeks down the road, for time to get up, give a presentation, and explain to you in detail, aside from officer safety, why I need that 9th officer. So I'm asking you now for the approval to do that, 15, 20 minutes of your time at your next meeting.
Steve, I don't know if you saw it, but I sent an email to Nancy on that. As long as we have I don't want to say a light agenda, but as long as we're not going to be going to midnight, one of those kind of meetings, the floor will be yours, and I'll work with you on that presentation. I've been talking to you about it for some time now, and that it's not just a matter of asking, and it's not just a matter of referencing 2009 because. Right, you can throw me under the bus there because I was actually the only one up here at that time. But it's I want to do a presentation. We want to do it right, so that we can educate not only the council but the public in terms of what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would be greatly appreciative of that, to get that time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I also I know this isn't intended as a debate, but you did say we had an officer leave in good standing, and that's
Yes, ma'am.
just not true.
That's absolutely true.
The prosecutor's office would disagree with that
Yeah.
characterization.
The documents I received advised he was resigning in good standing.
I have different
Not accurate.
information.
I'm not going to debate it with you. It's not even a matter to be talked about, honestly.
It is.
I would
agree.
agree. I would agree.
I don't agree.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you, Chief. Okay, anyone else here who wishes public comments? 3 minutes per person, please.
Again, Mike Koppis, 25 Willow. Couple comments I really appreciate from the chief and from the, forgot your name, but from the other resident of town. Just simple math to me, the officer who retired, good standing, whatever, is neither here nor there, but he was making the top of an officer can make, the top of the bracket, I think around 108,000 a year. And we've advertised for a single position of 48,000. What are we doing with the $60,000 balance?
Well, let me take that one. So, when we advertise at $48,000, that's typically for somebody right out of the academy, somebody
Yes.
who's green with no experience. If an officer comes to us with experience from other town, the council determines certainly a much higher wage to pay that officer based on their experience.
Okay.
We've done it once or twice in the somewhat recent past.
Matt Kelly, step 7.
Yeah, Matt Kelly.
Step 7?
Whatever. So no.
So-
If an officer came to us, let's say they moved here from another area, whatever, certainly that's not the starting salary.
Okay, so someone could step in at 80,000, 90,000, and leave much less of that. But there still seems to be a pretty good gap. Is there any way to look into an additional part-time officer? The part-timers, I watched the budget meeting last week. It was great. Thank you all for all you do. The numbers were spinning, and you guys put a lot of effort into that. It largely goes unthanked, I'm sure.
So I'm in an awkward position in that I'm on the council, but I was a police officer many years ago. And I don't want to speak for the council, but I think the police committee is not averse to having a second special and we would need to coordinate with the chief on that. Particularly the way it could free up his scheduling possibilities as well. So
Right.
I think that path is one with a lot of merit.
Okay.
And I think the council would be perhaps generally supportive. And that's something I think we should discuss at the meeting on the 26th. Might pay to hire 5 specials and have 3 ready to fill in when somebody's sick.
Except we have a statutory limit of 2.
You understand what I'm saying?
Just to clarify, with the size of our town, we're a max of 2.
2, I understand
They
that.
cannot work alone.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Coppers, I've been on the
We were sure
council.
we could hire way more.
I've been on the council almost 9 years. For the 9 years I've been on, we've always had 8 full-time officers and specials. I do recall us having at one point 2 specials. Right now, we have 1. Special, for those who don't know, is a part-time officer.
We were
Essentially a
at that
part-time
level,
officer.
in 2009, we were at that level.
And I don't think anybody sitting up here is certainly adverse to hiring another special. We recognize the benefits of that.
Right, yeah, we just seem to, especially like Officer Bobowitz is special, we know that.
He's a special.
Right, that's what I mean. I mean special as a great guy, his experience, what he brings to the town, what he offers to people.
Tremendous asset to the town.
Finding another special officer like him would be a challenge, I'm sure. But, you know, even at the rate we're paying him for what he does.
It's a bargain.
To take a lot of overtime off these guys. As an employer, the last thing I want to do is pay overtime. You don't get 1.5 times much work out of somebody as you do when you pay them that much.
Yep.
These guys aren't going to cover 1.5 times more miles, address 1.5 more times people.
We're
and
over
we're-
3 minutes, so I'd ask you to start
Oh,
to wrap up.
okay.
Oh, you can wrap up.
So I just want to say, I'd like to see all avenues investigated. If we get 2 for the price of 1, depending on the entry level, that'd be great. A mid-range guy and a special, something just to feel these, help the guys with what they feel is a severe staffing issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else present who wishes to speak?
Just real quick,
You need to come up here, I'm
Sure,
sorry,
no problem.
name and address.
No problem.
Detective Adam Caruso, I'm employed here by the borough. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to say, by state statute, a special cannot boot a full-timer out of overtime.
Okay, I
So-
need to interrupt you.
Okay, just wanted to let him know.
Comments to the council, I'm sorry, you
Okay.
can't address a resident.
So, to address you guys, just so you're aware, in case you're not aware, a special cannot supplement overtime by state statute. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. I didn't know.
Okay, anyone else in the audience wishes to speak? All right, let's go to our go-to participants. Nancy, I'll need your help in managing that. Anybody on go-to-meeting who wishes to speak to agenda items, only 3 minutes per person, please.
If you can ask them if they can put it in chat if they'd like to.
If
That I
yes,
can
if
see.
any of those on go-to-meeting wish to speak, will you please send a chat to Nancy Bretzker indicating your desire to speak? If we don't see anything within a minute or so, we will move on. As we all stare at the screen looking to see if a message
We need
pops
to
up.
play the Jeopardy music.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. That's right. I was thinking of the Brady Bunch music, but
No. Write down your answers.
Nobody is coming off, nobody is unmuting, and nobody is.
okay, so we will
Chat.
move on. Very good. Okay, council members, any last items that we wish to address or speak about?
I'll just say the park is coming along nicely. I think the scout cabin was re-roofed on Sunday, it was re-guttered. The paths are coming into place. I think things are really picking up, so keeping my fingers crossed for completion within the next 4 weeks.
Okay, good news.
Are we putting down sod or seed?
I don't know.
We are putting down seed. I asked that question today.
Okay, so we're gonna have a little more to wait then.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, to go frolicking through the fields.
Okay.
You have to stay on the path.
Yeah, have to stay on the path.
Hearing no further business unless someone else, anybody? Okay, a motion and second to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
No, second.
Aye. Okay, and again, a thank you to everybody, both online and present, for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate it more than you know. Thank you.
I give you a B minus. There's room for improvement,
On what?
running the meetings.
Oh, thanks, John. I would expect more